Friends, thank you very much for the invitation. And para empezar, permítame de agradecer el apoyo de los amigos de Ciudadanos para organizar este evento. Yo creo que ha sido un esfuerzo importante y entonces muchísimas gracias, de verdad. Ladies and gentlemen, coming from the Italian Senate, under the current political circumstances in my country, it's so refreshing to find myself in an environment which is not Europe hostile, but an environment which is determined and committed to the dream and the project of Europe. Doesn't happen very often in my country. We are all aware here in this room how important the incoming elections are, even if in every country will be different. So I will not insist on this issue, and there is no need to preach to the converted. But looking at my country, Radicali Italiani and More Europe started time ago when very few had realized that the confrontation today is not so much left or right, but it's nationalism versus a more democratic, open, liberal Europe. That is what it is at stake beginning from the European election. For the moment in my country, the wind is blowing in the opposite direction. But with our commitment, and in my experience, I'm old enough to know that there is nothing more fragile than politics and nothing more stable than geography. So I've seen star rising and falling, meaning that nothing is forever. The question is here in my country particularly how to react, how to stop this wave of illusionary nationalism and dangerous. I will just suggest briefly two tracks. The first track is to remind people, particularly the young people, the benefits and achievements of Europe as we know it. I'm always amazed when I come and go to the university to make conferences to realize how all these young people take the achievement that their parents and grandparents have made available for them, they take it for granted. And so they don't perceive even them. So it's like, well, we have been born here in peace, and all this is taken for granted and forever. Just to remind them that nothing is forever, that democracy is a process that can go forward, but also backwards, if you don't care, if you don't nurture it, if you don't protect it, you can wake up one morning and just realize that it's all gone. Now, but notwithstanding the major storms and tension in this past decade horribilis, the financial crisis, the debt crisis, the terrorist attack, the refugee crisis, just to name few, we have to realize that l'Europe communautaire managed to overcome these enormous tensions. Yes, insecurity and fears have not disappeared, but the everyday Europe did not stop functioning. From 2010 to 2007, intra-European trade has increased by 7%, notwithstanding all these tensions. Millions of people have benefited from the cohesion fund. Intra-European mobility has increased. The Erasmus project has involved more than 4 million people. But nobody seemed to appreciate all these achievements and others that I didn't mention. Commissioner Vestager this morning, I think, made a presentation, and because they are become so part of our daily life that we all, and particularly the young people, ceased to appreciate them or to perceive them. Only outside Europe, these achievements seem appreciated. It took former President Obama to remind us that Europe is the most successful political project of our time. No political European leader would dare to say that clearly and vocally. It took President Obama to come and remind us where we started and where we are now. In my country, at least, it's very difficult to find a political leader so explicit in favor of Europe. On the contrary, there are leaders that proclaim that they feel better home in Russia than in Europe. And why, one wonders, how come? How is it possible? Of course, recognizing these benefits does not mean denying the shortcomings of Europe as an institutional system, particularly the intergovernmental path and the intergovernmental trend. Let me say in not so many words that I have had enough of European Council meetings only devoted to migration as if it were a medieval plague which needs to be eradicated. Basta, basta, there is no invasion. It's a phenomenon that is due to stay with us. It's a structural problem that needs to be managed, doesn't need to be used to impulse fear, threats to our citizens. Frankly speaking, with the continent and the planet, when you look at the environment in the present shape, the last thing we all need is the head of government turning into full-time border and custom managers. Frankly speaking, border and custom managers can be done by others. They are supposed to be our leader. But that is not a reason. Recognizing these shortcomings is not a reason to be sorry. On the contrary, I think it's a reason to be committed and determined to push our public opinion and governments to overcome these shortcomings toward a more democratic and federalist Europe. And this liberal family is here exactly, I think, exactly for this purpose. It's more difficult, and I conclude. Governments, or many of them, seem to think that Europe is good only if it brings immediate advantages for their own country, or better said, for their own electoral campaigns. Europe is used not only as a scapegoat on any kind of problem that are nationally in nature, but they are unable to solve it, so Europe becomes an easy scapegoat for their national failure. Italian first versus Europe first. And this is where we have to choose, nationalism or a community, the European project. Italian first versus Europe first means that we will all be losers and irrelevant worldwide. Konrad Adenauer time ago said, Europe has been a dream for the few. It became a hope for the many. It will be a necessity for all. Let's put our enthusiasm, our brain, our strength, our commitment to make this new necessity a positive, enthusiastic one. Don't shy to remind people of the achievement of Europe. People who come from former country under Russian dictatorship, other people. This is the space of freedom and liberty. Just remind, I conclude, just 2 generations ago, Europe was in shambles, right? Italy was destroyed, France, Germany, Poland. In 2 generations, thanks to the vision of the few and the support of the American friends, Europe has become the richest continent worldwide. And not only rich in GDP, rich in expectancy of life, rich in alphabetization, rich in welfare state. I think it is irresponsible to break this project, also because I don't see the alternative. In this turbulent world, 27 small countries, everyone on his own, frankly, it doesn't seem to me a great perspective, neither for us nor for your children. So the liberal family, I think, can raise the flag of Europe. We did it in Italy. We will continue to do it inside the ALDE family. More Europe is what your children, me, you, all, is what we need. Thank you.